You're listening to GradPro Book, where we go beyond the summary and deep into the critique. Today, we are cracking open a book that comes with its own legend. Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, a manuscript so controversial it was supposedly locked away for over 70 years. But let's be brutally honest from the start. What if I told you that this celebrated, lost manuscript is not a profound spiritual revelation, but a dangerous blueprint for narcissistic delusion? Outwitting the Devil presents itself as a courageous interview with the ultimate evil, but it is, in fact, the most masterful act of psychological projection ever put to paper. This isn't a dialogue, it's a monologue where Napoleon Hill builds a strawman devil out of his own pet peeves, schools, churches, and indecisive people, and then proceeds to heroically defeat his own creation. The book's core philosophy, while cloaked in empowering language, is built on a foundation of staggering elitism and a paranoid worldview that labels 98% of humanity as mindless, soulless drifters controlled by evil forces. It's a dangerously simplistic model that dismisses complex issues like mental health, systemic poverty, and social inequality as mere personal failings. Forget outwitting the devil. This book risks teaching you to outwit empathy, nuance, and reality itself. Today, we're not just reading between the lines, we're exposing the entire insidious framework. To understand the undeniable gravitational pull of Outwitting the Devil, we have to start by acknowledging its structural genius. This is not just a book, it's a piece of theater. The premise itself, an author bold enough to interrogate the devil and force him to reveal his secrets, is incredibly compelling. The lost manuscript backstory adds a layer of mystique and urgency, making the reader feel like they are accessing forbidden knowledge. This is brilliant marketing, and it's a testament to Hill's understanding of human psychology that he framed his philosophy in such a dramatic and unforgettable way. And let's give credit where it's due. The core concepts, when stripped of their supernatural dressing, touch upon profound truths. The idea of drifting, living life without a definite purpose, being pushed and pulled by external circumstances, is a powerful and instantly relatable metaphor for the apathy and aimlessness that many people feel. Hill astutely identifies the primary fears that paralyze humanity: fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. By giving these fears a name and a source, the Devil's Workshop, he provides a framework for confronting them, the overarching message that you must become the master of your own mind, that your thoughts shape your reality, is an empowering and timeless principle at the heart of all great personal development work. Even his critiques of rote memorization in schools and fear-based organized religion were remarkably ahead of their time for 1938, questioning institutions that few dared to challenge. However, it is precisely within this brilliant structure and these empowering ideas that the most significant flaws are hidden. The book's greatest strengths are inextricably linked to its greatest weaknesses. Let's start with the central device, the interview with the devil. This is not a dialogue, it's a narrative crutch. The format is a clever rhetorical trick that allows Hill to present his personal opinions, biases, and philosophies as infallible, universal truths revealed by a supernatural entity. The devil is not an independent character with his own agenda. He is a perfectly crafted strawman, a puppet whose only purpose is to voice everything Hill despises. The devil conveniently hates independent thought, definiteness of purpose, and self-reliance. And what does he promote? Exactly the things Hill sees as the root of societal decay: aimless education, fear-mongering religion, and personal indecisiveness. This format allows Hill to engage in a debate with himself and, unsurprisingly, to win every single point. The devil is forced to confess secrets that just so happen to align perfectly with the 17 principles of success that Hill had already developed. It's a rigged game, a performance of intellectual conquest, rather than a genuine exploration of evil. This leads us to the most dangerous and arrogant premise of the entire book, the 98% fallacy. The devil repeatedly claims he controls 98% of the people in the world, leaving only a tiny 2% as non-drifters who belong to the opposition. This is not a statistic. It is a sweeping, condescending judgment on the whole of humanity. It creates a toxic us versus them mentality, encouraging the reader to identify as part of the enlightened 2% and to view the vast majority of their fellow human beings, their neighbors, colleagues, and perhaps even family members, and as mindless sheep, mere pawns in the devil's game. This philosophy doesn't foster empathy or a desire to understand the complex reasons for people's struggles. It fosters elitism and contempt. It replaces compassion with a simplistic and damning label, drifter. Furthermore, this worldview dangerously oversimplifies the nature of fear and failure. Hill is right to identify fear as a primary obstacle, but his solution is offensively simplistic. Just adopt a definiteness of purpose. This completely ignores the deep-seated psychological, biological, and systemic roots of fear and anxiety. To suggest that someone suffering from clinical depression, debilitating anxiety, or the crushing weight of systemic poverty can simply think their way out of it by having a clearer goal is not just naive, it's insulting. It's a classic case of privilege masquerading as wisdom, completely failing to acknowledge that for many, the struggle is not a lack of purpose, but a lack of resources, support, and opportunity. The book effectively blames the victim, reframing complex human suffering as a simple lack of mental discipline. Then we have the concept of hypnotic rhythm. This is where the philosophy veers into pure pseudoscience. Hill presents it as an inescapable natural law that locks people into their habits, good or bad. While the underlying idea that our environment, thoughts, and repeated actions shape our destiny is valid and is the basis of modern habit science, Hill packages it in mystical, fatalistic language. He makes it sound like an irreversible cosmic force, a whirlpool from which there is no escape once you're caught. This can be incredibly disempowering. Instead of teaching practical, evidence-based methods for behavior change, it presents a vague, scary law that either works for you or against you. It replaces practical psychology with supernatural determinism, which can lead people to feel helpless against their negative rhythm, rather than empowered to change their specific behaviors. Let's be clear about what this book is doing. It's a masterful piece of rhetoric. Hill takes common human struggles, procrastination, fear, lack of direction, and personifies them as a single, villainous entity. The devil. This is powerful. It's much easier to fight a single dragon than a host of nameless anxieties. He then presents his own philosophy of success, not as a set of helpful ideas, but as the only weapon that can defeat this cosmic evil. By doing so, he elevates his self-help principles to the level of spiritual salvation. It's a brilliant sales pitch, but it's intellectually dishonest. It demands that you either accept his entire worldview or remain one of the devil's 98% of dupes. There is no middle ground, no room for nuance or critical thought, which is ironic for a book that claims to champion independent thinking. When I step back and reflect on Outwitting the Devil, my personal assessment is that it cannot be read as a straightforward guide to success. It must be read as something else entirely, a profound psychological self-portrait, and a historical artifact. This book is a raw, unfiltered look into the mind of Napoleon Hill at his most vulnerable. He wrote it in 1938, after a period of intense personal and financial failure during the Great Depression. He admits his own fears, his own periods of drifting, his own loss of courage. The entire interview can be seen as an intense act of self-therapy. Hill is not interviewing the devil. He is interviewing his own shadow, his other self. He projects all his insecurities, his failures, and his limiting beliefs onto the character of the devil. Then, through the persona of the interviewer, he systematically interrogates, challenges, and defeats those inner demons using the very principles he teaches. It is a fascinating, almost voyeuristic glimpse into a man desperately trying to reason his way back from the brink, using his own philosophy as a lifeline. Read in this light, the book is not an arrogant lecture, but a deeply human document of struggle and self-conquest. It's also a powerful artifact of its time. Written in the shadow of the Great Depression and the rise of totalitarianism in Europe, Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin are all mentioned by the devil. The book is saturated with the anxieties of the era. The fear of mass hysteria, of propaganda, of losing individual freedom to powerful, manipulative forces is palpable. The devil's methods, controlling people through fear, propaganda, and keeping them in debt and ignorance, are a direct reflection of the political climate of the 1930s. Hill's fierce championing of definiteness of purpose and independent thought is not just success advice. It's a political and philosophical stand against the tide of collectivist ideologies he saw sweeping the globe. Understanding this context adds a layer of depth that is lost if one reads it as just another timeless self-help book. The fatal flaw, however, is to take any of it literally. The devil's confessions are too neat, too convenient. He is the perfect villain, always providing the exact setup for Hill to deliver a philosophical knockout punch. He readily admits that Hill's principles are his only weakness. He confesses that the only thing he fears is the very book we are reading. This isn't an interrogation. It's a beautifully choreographed intellectual dance where the outcome was decided before the music started. So, how should we approach this book? I believe its true value is not in its literal claims, but in its use as a metaphorical tool. The devil is a brilliant personification of our negative self-talk, our inner critic, our fears, our procrastination, and our limiting beliefs. The interview format is a powerful model for the kind of internal dialogue we should all be having with ourselves. We should be brave enough to ask our fears, "Where do you come from?" We should challenge our procrastination. "What purpose do you serve?" We should interrogate our limiting beliefs. "What evidence do you have?" If we read the book not as a transcript of a supernatural encounter, but as a template for introspective inquiry, it becomes an incredibly powerful tool for self-awareness and growth. It teaches us not just to outwit the devil, but to understand the devil within. Despite the very harsh critiques I've leveled against it, it would be intellectually dishonest to completely dismiss the value of outwitting the devil. If a reader can navigate its treacherous philosophical waters with a critical life raft, there are indeed some genuinely positive takeaways. First and foremost, the book is an undeniable testament to the power of personal responsibility and the sovereignty of the mind. In an age where it is often easy to fall into a mindset of victimhood, Hill's relentless insistence that you are the master of your fate, that your thoughts create your reality, is a potent and necessary antidote. The central idea that nothing and no one, not even the devil himself, can control you unless you abdicate the throne of your own mind is incredibly empowering. Second, the book is a powerful catalyst for action. For someone who is truly stuck in a rut, who is drifting aimlessly through life, the book's urgent, dramatic, and sometimes terrifying tone can be the very shock to the system they need. It's not a gentle nudge, it's a full-blown alarm bell. And sometimes, that's exactly what's required to awaken someone from their apathy. Finally, we must credit the book for its sheer courage. Even if the critiques of organized religion and public schooling are one-sided and extreme, they were unbelievably bold statements to make in 1938. The book's very existence forces the reader to question the foundational institutions and beliefs they may have taken for granted. It encourages a healthy skepticism and prompts us to think for ourselves about where our beliefs truly come from. In summary, Outwitting the Devil should not be read as a sacred text or a practical how-to guide. It is best approached as a provocative thought experiment, a historical document, and a psychological allegory. Its value is not found in the literal answers it provides, but in the profound questions it forces you to ask about the nature of fear, the power of purpose, and the eternal battle against the devil within your own mind. Thank you for listening. Your support means the world to us, So please consider liking this video and subscribing to the GradPro Book channel for more in-depth critiques.